Hey team, today I want to make a video explaining how most rich people in New Zealand go about buying cars. The reason why I wanted to make this video today is because I want to help out those people that maybe are watching this video between the ages of 15 to 25. It's more so for someone that wants to have an understanding of how these people have actually gone about their business and acquired these cars, whether they've done it with cash, whether they've got a loan to do it, and how they have most likely done it. Because this is majority of people in New Zealand. On how they do afford these cars. I'll be real with you, and I was super curious about this before I joined the mortgage industry of like how all this stuff worked. So that's what we're going to cover in today's video. What you'll notice is maybe if you've actually gone through the process of maybe trying to get a car loan in the past, maybe if you want to get a nice ride and do all those things, you can probably experience that you're probably going to get charged somewhere between 7 to 15% interest rate if you're going to get a car loan, and majority of the time, these loans that you get will be on a shorter loan term. Normally, they probably range somewhere from 3 to 7 years on the loan term, and the weekly repayments can be pretty large, and it can actually be something that can be a hindrance, especially if you're looking to buy a property as well if you do get a car loan, because so much of your weekly fixed commitments are going to go towards this car loan, which is why a lot of people say don't get a car loan, because it can put you in a tricky financial position, or definitely slow down your progression towards buying a property as well, because you have such a big commitment towards this. Normally for a home loan, the loan term, it can be a lot longer, up to 30 years, because there's some security that's being offered. We might cover that a little bit later in today's video, but anyway, the topic today is, figuring out how these people, afford these cars and how they go about their business. So, like I said before earlier, most car loans will probably have this sort of structure. Maybe if you require $40,000 of finance to get the car that you want, you're probably expecting to have somewhere around about a 10% interest rate, 5-year loan term, $196 per week. Okay. Some people between the ages of the ages of 15 to 25 will do this. 15 is probably a bit young, maybe somewhere like 17 or 18 or whatever, but this is what they'll do. However, you see maybe, all these rich people, all these older people, this is how they will likely do it. So in New Zealand, as you probably have realized over the last, 5, 10, 15, 20 years, property prices have appreciated a lot. So a lot of people have accumulated a lot of equity in their properties, right? So I put together the scenario of, say, someone, if they own $1 million property, they might have a less of a mortgage than this, but in this scenario, I've just said, look, they've got a $500,000 home loan as well in their position, right? But they own a $1 million property, so they've got about $500,000 of equity. Now, if they want to get additional funding out, against their property that's worth $1 million, they can, if they can prove, they can service the additional debt. So in this scenario, maybe these people that own this $1 million property, they might have their mortgage with ANZ. Could be any main bank, it could be like Westpac, ASB, etc. as well. But they might say, hey, ANZ, that might be their existing bank, can we please borrow an additional $40,000 to buy a car? And ANZ will say, okay, can you afford the future lending of $540,000? And if they can prove that they can afford the additional repayments because of their property's value, they will let them borrow that additional 40 grand. And actually in this scenario, they will lend up to a maximum of $800,000 if their property is worth $1 million. So they can borrow that money against their property. So that means, if we go back here, now rather than having an interest rate of 10%, because it's now secured against the mortgage, this new additional lending, they can take out this $40,000 and they can actually have a loan term that is a lot longer than this 5-year loan term. Sometimes, if I put in the current 1-year fixed rate the main bank's 1-year fixed rate as of right now, 4.49, this is what it would be on a 5-year loan term. So there's actually not that much of a significant difference. But again, now there is the ability, if they can prove that they can be in a position where they're debt-free upon retirement and they can afford this additional repayment, now they can push out this loan term a little bit further, 10 years, 15 years, or whatever it is. And now the weekly repayment is significantly reduced. So having a mortgage and having equity in your home gives these people the ability to be able to borrow more funds to acquire these cars. And that's why you might see people doing what's called top-up applications to borrow more money that's secured against their home because they have equity available. And that's how they're able to access these loans at lower rates. And especially a couple of years ago as well, in 2020, 2021, 2022, rates were really low. They were around about 2% or 3%. So people were taking out these top-ups against their properties and borrowing at rates effectively this low and using it for the purpose of buying a car. And that's how these people in New Zealand have bought these cars. This is normally how they will do it, because in New Zealand, you know, as we've seen, property prices have accumulated a lot, and this is how they do it. So this is more so the poor way of doing it, or not the best way, at least from my perspective. You know, it's you know, if you've got this far in the video, you probably have an understanding this is what's considered bad debt. This again is, you know, acquiring something that is a depreciating asset, you know, in a car. Some cars maybe sustain their value or potentially go up in value, but anyway, if people are looking to buy cars and do it, you know, buy these expensive cars at least, this is normally how they're going about their business. Another fact to consider is, maybe I'll put it on the screen somewhere, is there also is a solution for what's called a green home loan. And a lot of people have been taking out these loans recently, where if they buy energy efficient car that's, you know, 100% electric, or maybe a hybrid vehicle, you can actually get an interest rate of as low as 1% for up to 3 years. There also is another bank that actually offers 0% interest up to 5 years as well. So if you're interested maybe in that, we can chat about it. Ultimately, at the end of the day, I'm not a huge fan of taking out additional debt, especially when it's going towards a depreciating asset. So, you know, it's something that can be done. Obviously, I want to make sure that any of my clients are, you know, doing things that you only get one life, right? So not all purpose of funds need to go towards things that are appreciating assets at the end of the day. You know, that's not my ultimate decision to make, but as long as there are mitigants from my point of view that, you know, there's income to support your position, that you're going to be okay financially, have a good retirement, etc., then, you know, these things are okay. But again, this is how people are going about their business to afford these luxury cars, or maybe hiring cars, or how the rich buy cars in New Zealand, like I mentioned in this video, right? So again, $40,000 of borrowing on a 1-year interest rate. If it's a 5-year loan term, again, the weekly repayment isn't actually that much lower on a higher interest rate. But again, there is the ability, because it's secured against the mortgage, you know, you can push out the loan term further. And that's how these people are doing it. So hopefully you guys found that insightful. If you do want to learn more about how mortgages work and all these things, I'll put other videos on the screen explaining maybe some insightful stuff like this. It's a bit of a different video that I normally probably wouldn't make, but I found this is something I always wanted to know about. So there was nothing out there really to explain this. So this is how people do it. They take out a top up against their property and get it at lower interest rates, and maybe push out the loan term to reduce how much it costs them week to week. So yeah. Anyway, guys, I'll leave it there. If there's any time you guys want to reach out to me regarding anything mortgage related, I'll leave it all in the description below. Cheers.